Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in. I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah. And then I want to come back. Or some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight.
Coward.
You know, there's no turn it on here, turn it off here. It's just 110% at all times. So, you know, if I burn out, I burn out.
Pierce had it poked away, stolen by Jordan. Lojas down on the floor. It's loose to Humphries. 4 to shoot. Humphries 3.
You like the idea. Jordan coming up with the steal.
Oh, look
again.
at that. The 40-year-old dives to the hardwood.
Kevin's a great player. I think that his legacy is complicated. You know, I don't like any guys who join super teams. I'm biased against LeBron when it comes to comparing him to Michael, joining Dwayne and those guys. Because, you know, when we had this debate, and LeBron's amazing and spectacular, but I was like, Michael didn't join anybody. He just kept getting his ass kicked and got bigger and got stronger and finally knocked the wall down. And, you know, Kevin, who's a great player, you know, other than the fact when he joined the Warriors, he hasn't been successful anywhere else. And I don't hold that against him, but he wants to be considered in that list. He's not on that list. He's not on that list. He's a great, great player, but he's not on that list. He wants to be like, wow, he's not in a GOAT conversation, because you're not, plain and simple.
Damn.
You had great success when you joined the Warriors, but not only did you not have success, you actually flamed out in those other places. You got swept last year in the playoffs. You didn't even make the play-in.
Kevin Durant and LeBron James thought they were sharing a harmless moment on a podcast, laughing at what they believed was just another minor footnote in Michael Jordan's past. But the reaction didn't match the mood in that room. What they treated as casual humor came across to fans as a quiet attempt to chip away at the legacy of the sport as most defining figure. The backlash grew once the clip spread. People who'd followed the game for decades immediately understood what was happening, and Charles Barkley didn't hesitate to provide the perspective they lacked. His response on live television didn't just defend Jordan's place in history, it highlighted how easily today's biggest stars lean on jokes when the conversation turns to legacy, and how quickly that approach collapses under real scrutiny.
Might not be in the team's best interest, in your best interest, to play all 82. Is that something you thought about at all since you made the goal?
Man, that's a goal, but yeah, we'll see.
The next day,
I'm available to go and be in the pro. If OBJ shows up, he might score 100.
We come to practice, he's on one leg. Like he was hurt the second year, he was on one leg the whole year and played 82 games. Like, and so he practiced every day and he played every game on one leg. And so you're like, man, MJ, why don't you just sit up? How can I be the leader of the team and sit out and y'all going through all the credit? I gotta be there.
I twisted my ankle and I had a teammate, David Greenwood. He says, you know, you twist your ankle, young fella, come over and sit with me. You know, this is, you need to. I said, no, man, I'm trying to make a name for myself. There's no way I can sit. You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact.
And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
LeBron James launched a podcast called Mind the Game with the idea that it would offer deeper conversations about basketball from the perspective of people who lived it. That was the stated goal, but for anyone who actually follows the show closely, the pattern is hard to miss. Every few episodes, the discussion drifts away from strategy or history and turns into quiet jabs at the legends who built the league. And the figure who gets pulled into those moments more than anyone else is Michael Jordan. That dynamic became even clearer when Kevin Durant appeared as a guest. The group began talking about the physical and mental toll of long NBA careers, especially after a decade or more in the league. Durant shifted the conversation toward the question veteran players eventually face about whether they want to keep pushing or step away from the grind. It was a reflective moment at first, the kind that usually defines the podcast. Then Durant added a line that changed the tone completely. He mentioned that different players handle that pressure in different ways. Some decide they need a break and explore something outside the league, maybe even another sport. Others, he said, simply keep going for 22 straight seasons without pausing. The meaning wasn't subtle. The first remark pointed directly at Jordan's mid-90s retirement. The second was a deliberate nod to LeBron's durability. LeBron didn't address the comparison directly. Instead, he broke into laughter, treating Durant's comment as a clever punchline. For them, it seemed like a harmless exchange. But for viewers, it revealed something deeper about the way the show frames its conversations, and who they believe deserves to be critiqued.
You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
And you think it's funny?
Michael Jordan didn't step away from basketball in 1993 because he was bored, burned out, or unsure of his direction. His father, James Jordan, had been murdered that summer during a robbery. Jordan, who was at the height of his career and carrying the league on his shoulders, walked away from the game to honor his father's memory. Baseball had been his father's dream for him long before the NBA was even an option, so he followed that path as a tribute, not an escape. That is why Durant's offhand baseball comment didn't land the way he thought it would. Delivered with a smirk, it wasn't just inaccurate, it was dismissive of one of the most painful chapters in Jordan's life. And with LeBron sitting beside him laughing, the moment stopped being harmless. It became an endorsement. It signaled that turning Jordan's grief into a punchline was acceptable in that space. Understanding the moment of Jordan's retirement also means recognizing the circumstances under which it happened. He didn't walk away after blowing a series, struggling in the postseason, or showing signs of decline. He retired after winning 3 straight championships, the kind of run that defines entire eras of the sport. He left at the top, carrying a level of excellence few players have ever matched, all while processing unimaginable loss. Framing that decision as quitting isn't just inaccurate. It undermines a story rooted in personal tragedy. The irony, though, is how sharply that narrative contrasts with the careers of the two players making the joke. Durant has a history marked by decisions that basketball fans still scrutinize. After losing to Golden State in the playoffs, he joined the same Warriors team that set the 73-9 record and already featured Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. To this day, it's considered one of the weakest competitive choices in league history. His post-Warriors years brought more instability. He pushed his way out of Brooklyn when the situation became difficult, and his time in Phoenix quickly followed the same pattern. These are the moments that shape his reputation, not the baseball jab he made on a podcast. LeBron's path isn't far removed from that pattern either. When his first run in Cleveland faltered, he left for Miami to join Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. When that structure began to crack, he returned to Cleveland. When that situation grew complicated, he moved to Los Angeles. At every crossroads, when the environment shifted or pressure closed in, he found a new location to reset. That doesn't erase his accomplishments, but it adds weight to the contrast they tried to create with Jordan's story. So when Durant pushed the idea that longevity alone should define greatness, that's simply lasting. 20 seasons is more meaningful than championships, dominance, or impact. It revealed something about the perspective they shared in that moment. LeBron's agreement only reinforced it. The conversation wasn't just a comparison. It was a quiet reframing of what they wanted greatness to look like, even if it meant reshaping history to get there.
Deep wisdom.
To have a long career, that's the goal, to be in the league for 20 years. I tell you, that's the goal.
You know, it's all about winning championships and winning.
Garth Gilmore told me one time, he played for Chicago, he said, if you expect to play a long time in this league, you better quit mopping up the floor. And I thought, well, he's crazy, because that's what basketball is all about.
Bird takes it away from Wilkins, goes to the floor and gets it up ahead.
Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships, but do I still want to do this shit? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah. And then I want to come back. Or some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight.
This rest stuff just drives me crazy. You're playing basketball for a living, okay? I understand if you're working in a coal mine, that you may need a rest day after it. You're playing basketball.
But you have to really play hard. Does that hurt you physically?
No, because when I play hard all the time. You know, there's no turn it on here, turn it off here. It's just 110% all.
Michael Jordan never approached the sport with the goal of extending his career as long as possible. Longevity wasn't his measure of greatness. His standard was excellence. Every season, he pursued the same objective: perform at the highest level, dominate on both ends, and leave nothing unresolved on the court. If chasing that level of intensity meant his career would be shorter, he accepted the trade-off. He even admitted it openly, saying that if he eventually burned out, he would simply move on to something else. The priority was greatness, not duration. Durant's comment about 20-year careers being the benchmark lands awkwardly in comparison. It implied that simply existing in the league for 2 decades carries more value than the work done within those years. Jordan's career provides a clear counterpoint. Across 13 full seasons, he produced 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 league MVPs, 10 scoring titles, and 9 all-defensive selections. Compressed into a little more than a decade, that level of accomplishment is unmatched in its density. It represents dominance without gaps, without wasted seasons, and without periods where he merely drifted through the schedule. Placed beside that record, the combined output of Durant and LeBron tells a different story. Across 39 total seasons between them, they produced 6 championships, 5 MVP awards, 6 finals MVPs, and 5 scoring titles. Their combined defensive accolades barely fill a single resume page. Nearly 4 decades of basketball yielded fewer achievements than Jordan collected in roughly 10 years. The comparison isn't meant to diminish their careers, but the arithmetic exposes how misleading it is to frame longevity as the superior measure of greatness. Charles Barkley recognized this dynamic and addressed it directly. When he was asked about Durant's legacy during a television segment, he didn't attempt to soften the response. His assessment was blunt. Durant, he said, is an all-time talent with an incomplete legacy. He explained that his view was shaped by Durant's decision to join Golden State and by the additional moves that followed. Barkley expanded the criticism to include LeBron as well, calling back to the formation of the Miami roster with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh. To Barkley, those choices reflect an approach to competition he doesn't respect. He contrasted that with Jordan's path. Jordan didn't leave Chicago to find a ready-made solution. He stayed through the growing pains, the playoff losses, and the physical battles with Detroit. He worked until the Bulls finally broke through. Barkley's point resonated because it aligned with a widely understood truth. Jordan remained where he was, took on the challenges in front of him, and overcame them without altering the conditions around him. Barkley continued by detailing Durant's struggles outside of Golden State. He noted the playoff sweep in Brooklyn, the missed postseason in Phoenix, and the broader trend of instability when Durant is positioned as the sole anchor of a franchise. His conclusion was simple. Durant wants to be part of the greatest of all-time conversation, but his career does not support that claim. Barkley delivered the verdict plainly, without any attempt to soften the impact. What made the moment significant was not the criticism itself, but the fact that it was stated so directly. For years, discussion around Durant and LeBron has often moved without pushback. Their narratives have been shaped largely by admiration, media momentum, and a reluctance to question their historical positioning. Barkley's comments interrupted that pattern. He articulated what many observers had been thinking but rarely voiced on major platforms. Yet Barkley's remarks were not solely about defending Jordan. They spoke to a broader trend forming within the league. Modern players, intentionally or not, have started reframing the accomplishments of earlier generations. Through selective comparisons and rewritten storylines, they imply that the achievements of past legends carry different weight in the current era. LeBron has been central to that shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes openly guiding discussions that recontextualize the sport's history around modern perspectives. For Barkley, the issue extends beyond individual legacies. It touches the integrity of basketball's historical narrative. The past is being reshaped in real time, often by players still active in the league, and the cost of that trend is a distortion of what earlier generations achieved. His response was a reminder that the standards set by players like Jordan were built on challenges, failures, resilience, and success that can't be redefined by selective commentary on a podcast. It was a call to protect the context that shaped the sport, and to recognize the difference between longevity, convenience, and genuine greatness. LeBron's remark about being done with the 90s wasn't a throwaway line. It was part of a steady pattern, a gradual reframing of basketball history meant to minimize the era that shaped the definition of greatness. Rather than allowing the past to stand on its own merit, he has leaned into the idea that the challenges of Jordan's time were somehow lighter, less demanding, or less authentic. The implication is subtle, but consistent. The path was easier then, the accomplishments less impressive. The issue with that narrative is that it doesn't hold up when placed against actual history. Jordan didn't ask for reinforcements or search for more favorable situations. He stayed where he was, absorbed the setbacks, and eventually overcame them. Barkley's point was rooted in that distinction. Respect in the league comes from what you endure and how you respond to it, not from reinterpreting the struggles of the players who came before you. If you're going to critique someone who defined the highest standard, the comparison requires substance. Understanding that standard begins with Jordan's availability. As a rookie in 1984, he played all 82 games. That season, 40 players across the league did the same. The minutes were demanding, the travel was grueling, and the physicality was far greater than today's era. Teams operated with minimal personnel, practices were more intense, and back-to-back games were routine. Yet participation remained high. In the 1999-2000 season, 58 players completed all 82 games. That level of consistency reflected a different approach to the obligations of competition. Today, the opposite trend has taken hold. The last few seasons have marked the lowest player availability rates ever recorded in the NBA. And this decline has occurred during a time when resources have never been better. Players travel by private jet, have access to full medical and performance staffs, and receive individualized training regimens designed to maximize recovery. Despite these advantages, the average player is participating less. The shift points to a change in mentality rather than circumstance. Jordan's perspective on missing games cuts directly against this modern approach. He emphasized that every appearance was an opportunity to demonstrate excellence and that fans deserved to see the best players whenever they could. He considered the person in the highest seat of the arena someone who may have saved for months to attend a single game, and believed that effort required the same respect and commitment from him. That belief shaped how he played and how often he appeared. LeBron, by contrast, has completed a full 82-game season once in more than 2 decades. Other stars from previous generations, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, reached that mark multiple times despite facing their own physical and competitive challenges. When the league's most visible player rests routinely, it influences the rest of the roster. The habit spreads, and soon teams treat regular season games as optional. In recent years, that tendency has even extended into the postseason, something nearly unthinkable during earlier eras. Jordan's era operated under a different expectation. When he broke his foot early in his career and missed 64 games, management wanted him sidelined for the remainder of the season. Jordan argued against it. He returned under strict minute restrictions, but when games reached critical moments, he insisted on being on the floor. It wasn't recklessness. It was a commitment to competitiveness. It reflected what the face of the league was supposed to represent. This brings the conversation back to the current podcast culture surrounding the NBA. Commentary-driven content has created an environment where criticizing established legends has become routine. Instead of building a bridge across eras, many retired and current players have begun poking holes in the reputations of Jordan and Kobe, often for conversational impact rather than historical accuracy. Names like Jeff Teague, Tracy McGrady, Dwyane Wade, Gilbert Arenas, and more recently Durant and LeBron have all contributed to this trend. The issue isn't that past players should be immune from criticism. It's that the criticism often ignores context, overlooks achievements, and reframes the difficulty of those eras through a modern lens. Barkley's response was rooted in restoring balance to that conversation. His defense of Jordan wasn't nostalgic sentiment. It was a reminder of the standards established long before the current climate of selective comparison and casual dismissal. By addressing these patterns directly, he challenged the modern narrative that longevity, convenience, or reinterpretation can replace the foundation of greatness built on effort, resilience, and sustained excellence.
You play basketball 2.5 hours a day, 3 hours a day, right? That's your job. That's what you get paid to do as an NBA player. What are you doing the other 21 hours? I mean, to me, that's when you should be preparing for your next day of work.
Kobe didn't want to disappoint his fans, especially the ones in the 300 sections that saved up to watch him play. I remember asking him why he couldn't just sit a game out because he was hurting. He said, "What about the fans that saved up to watch me play just once?" He never forgot about his fans.
In today's NBA climate, taking aim at the players who built the foundation of the league has become the quickest way to create attention. The higher the figure, the more tempting the target, but Jordan has no need to respond directly to any of it. His 6 championships serve as his response. His undefeated finals record serves as his response. The highlights that defined an era serve as his response. And most importantly, the mentality he carried, the one that shaped a league into what it ultimately became, continues to speak on his behalf. The stars of Jordan's era, players like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, earned their status long before endorsements and corporate partnerships arrived. Their reputations were built on results, not projections. When companies sought them out, they did so because these players had proven themselves at the highest level. Today, the dynamic is reversed. Players often receive maximum contracts and major shoe deals before ever stepping on an NBA court. They enter the league prepackaged with excitement, marketed on potential rather than accomplishment. That shift creates a different relationship with the game. When rewards come first, the urgency to earn them diminishes. Jordan's early career illustrates the opposite approach. His rookie contract by modern standards was modest. His endorsements came later only after he established himself as a transformative player. Every milestone, every opportunity, and every accolade had to be earned through performance. That hunger, the understanding that nothing was guaranteed, is a central part of what pushed him to the heights he reached. It is difficult for modern players to replicate that mindset when the structure surrounding them is so different. This is why Durant's focus on longevity over dominance reveals so much. Jordan never set out to play for 2 decades. His priority was to excel, to perform at a level that left no doubt about who he was as a competitor. He did that in 13 full seasons. Meanwhile, Durant and LeBron have nearly 40 seasons between them, yet both still operate under Jordan's shadow. Their careers are measured through comparison to his, not the other way around. There's another layer to this conversation that hasn't received enough attention. NBC recently reintroduced Michael Jordan into the NBA landscape in an advisory and ambassadorial capacity. The decision reflects something larger than nostalgia. It demonstrates that more than 20 years after his retirement, Jordan remains one of the most influential voices connected to the league. His presence carries weight that neither LeBron nor even Commissioner Adam Silver can match. When Jordan speaks about competition, accountability, or respect for fans, the message resonates across generations. That influence is Jordan's real response to Durant and LeBron. It doesn't come through social media. It doesn't arrive through podcast commentary. It's reflected in the fact that his relevance has endured without effort, without promotion, and without needing to reframe his own history. The league still turns to him when it wants to reinforce standards that have begun to erode. The culture still aligns itself with his expectations long after his final game. Durant and LeBron can continue their conversations. They can downplay championships, question older systems, and debate the value of past achievements. But the comparisons remain unavoidable. Every major discussion about greatness circles back to Jordan. Every list, every documentary, every historical evaluation begins with his name. Longevity may extend careers, but it doesn't redefine the standard set by someone whose impact was immediate, intense, and complete. In the end, the legacy they criticize is the one that continues to define them, and no amount of time in the league will rewrite that reality.
All right, Laker Nerd asks, why is the triangle offense less utilized in today's game?
To try to run the triangle offense right now, it'd be very challenging, just because how the game is played and also how defense is covering.
10 to shoot. Jake going right to the rack. No defensive communication.
Why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than in other sports?
Yeah, it's funny, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all of everything.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
What do you think of when you hear the term load management thrown around?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. You know, I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, you know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy.
Like you mentioned a little bit about today's game, because we had Club on here and he talked about load management. He said, I don't know what the hell that is. Where is it going? And that's number one. And number two, how do we get it back?
Even for me, I love the NBA game, but then I turn on to a game, right? And then the stars are not playing because of load management. It's hurting the game.
He wasn't merely defending Michael Jordan's legacy. He was defending the framework the sport is built on. The pattern taking shape is straightforward and dangerous. By diminishing the accomplishments of the past to elevate themselves, LeBron and Durant are participating in a cycle that will eventually turn back on them. The moment they step away from the court, a new generation, one that didn't see their primes, didn't feel the weight of their moments, and didn't understand the context, will approach their careers the same way. They will call them overrated. They will claim their competition was weak. They will highlight failures and ignore context. It's the same feedback loop that LeBron and Durant have already begun feeding. This is why Barkley's comments mattered. His message wasn't about shielding Jordan from criticism. It was a reminder that the history of the league is not something to be altered for convenience. The 90s created the commercial, cultural, and competitive foundation modern players now benefit from. The era produced the rivalries, the financial boom, and the global expansion that gave players today the opportunities they enjoy. Whether LeBron and Durant acknowledge it or not, that era is the reason their careers unfolded the way they did. And like it or not, the same process of reevaluation they apply to others will one day be aimed at them. LeBron's recent actions illustrate how narrative control has become a priority. Creating a podcast is not about preserving the history of the sport. It is about shaping how his own story will be interpreted. Declaring himself the greatest in interviews, pointing to circumstances and teammates when seasons fall short, constantly remaining present in the media. These choices reveal an increasing concern with perception. And when he reacts to Jordan's most difficult personal moment as if it were a punchline, the impression left is far from flattering. Those instances do not disappear. They accumulate and may begin to reshape how people view his place in the sport. LeBron has always excelled at managing public perception. But even the best controlled narratives start to shift when emotion, legacy, and history intersect. At that point, no amount of strategy alters the truth. Jordan never sought a 20-year career. His ambition centered on maximizing every season, dominating opponents, winning championships, collecting MVPs, and playing both ends of the floor at the highest level. If that approach led to a shorter career, he accepted the outcome. That distinction is what separates players defined by their impact from players defined by their statistics. The podcast exchange between LeBron and Durant attempted to reframe history. They downplayed the era that built modern basketball. They joked about one of the most painful moments in Jordan's life without considering the implications. They assumed their commentary would go unchallenged. Barkley's response showed otherwise. His clarity cut through the noise. The debate surrounding greatness has never been about simple totals or raw longevity. It has always included how a player carried himself, how he approached the game, and what he represented at his peak. In those categories, Jordan's position remains untouched. His achievements came in a concentrated stretch of time built on an intensity few have matched. 13 full seasons were enough to establish a blueprint for excellence that continues to define the league more than 2 decades after he retired. Duration has its place, but duration alone does not equate to greatness. A single year, a single season, or a single era can define a legacy when the standard is high enough. Jordan delivered 13 of those seasons and they remain unmatched. If you value the true history of the sport and believe the past shouldn't be rewritten to suit modern narratives, this conversation is essential. And if you have a perspective on whether Durant and LeBron crossed a line, or if you see this as a reflection of the evolving culture of the league, say so below. Hit subscribe if you want more breakdowns that go beyond surface-level headlines, and drop a comment with your thoughts, because this conversation is nowhere near finished.